Hello, welcome back to the channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. We generally like to talk a load of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general, and in this video we're going to be talking about a Euro style worker placement game. We're going to be talking about Shadow Network, and in this game you'll be placing your workers out on the board to gain resources. You'll be trading these resources in for influence that will hopefully allow you to win the game. So in this video we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules to tell you what we do like, what we don't like, and then we'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Shadow Network is worth your time and bother today and in the future. So remember, if you're new here, please consider subscribing to this channel. Hit the like button and all that YouTube bullshit. We'll see you after this. Bollocks. So, Shadow Network, how'd you play this game? So Shadow Network is a Euro-style worker placement game set in the Cold Era. It's about espionage and spies, right? Each player is going to get a player board with a ledger on it and some spaces to put your intelligence markers, right? And you'll also have a portion of the player board place your suitcases, right? So first thing you're going to do is you're going to do the black market reset. You'll see on the board there are various black market tokens, right? You'll be taking these off the board and then you will be drawing a certain number of black market cards, and this will tell you where the new black market locations are going to be. So you're going to be doing a number of actions in this game, right? The first action that you're going to do is the espionage action, or you can pass at this point. If you choose to do the espionage action, you'll place your worker out onto a location, and you'll see that the card on the location is divided into two bits. You've got the top bit and then you've got the bottom bit. First thing you're going to do is you're going to take any pieces of intelligence off of that card and put them on your player board. Then you will gain the resources in the top portion of the card, and then you'll have to place some intelligence in the locations listed on the bottom of the card. So for instance, if the card says yellow D, then you'll have to place yellow intelligence in any of the 3 D locations. If the location you go to has got black market token, then you'll be able to do the black market action. You can do any of these actions, but you can only do them once each, right? First thing you can do is you can look at the top card of the black market deck, and you'll be able to exchange some of your resources for other resources. You'll be able to draw a contract card. You've got the choice of drawing 1 or 2. If you draw 1, you'll be able to take one of the payoff resources listed on the card. And if you take 2, then you'll be able to take 1 from each. You also see that these will give you points if you manage to turn in these contracts during the game. You'll get more points than if you do it at the end, and if you don't complete the contract, you're going to lose points, right? Next thing you could do, you could draw a handler from the row of cards at the top of the board. These are basically cards that allow you to trade in your resources to get more resources, right? These are finite uses, so every time you use it, you have to put a marker on each of the cards. So you could do some analysis actions anytime that you like. You can use one of your handlers, right? You can compile briefcases. The way that you do this, you'll look at your ledger and you'll trade in that number of intelligence tokens, and you'll take a briefcase and you'll stick it in the appropriate slot, and you'll see that you'll get a certain amount of points for that. Yeah, every time you stick one on there, you'll get a certain number of points, and each time you complete one of the columns, you'll get more points. Next thing you can do is you can cross a milestone. You see that there's some wavy lines on the suitcase side of the board. If you cross one of them, then you get to do a milestone action. And the way this works is you get a choice, right? You get 3 influence if you want. Influence is victory points at the end of the game. You can complete a contract if you wish, and you can get rid of a contract if you don't think you can complete it. It's a good idea if you stuffed your wallet full of these contracts and you don't think you can complete it, right? So you start the game with 2 workers that are on call on your telephone, right? These are free to use, and you get 2 workers that you can pay to use each round. These are going to cost you 4 and 6 influence respectively to use, and if you don't use it, then you get a bonus at the end of the round, yeah? One of the bonuses is you can get a free piece of influence of your choice, yeah? Another one is that you'll be able to complete a contract. Note, there are only 2 ways to complete contracts. One's to cross a milestone and one's to keep one of your agents, yeah? So once everyone's done taking their actions, everyone's passed, then you'll do a bit of upkeep. You'll incentivize the board. You'll put 1 influence on every space that nobody's been to. You do your HQ actions when the bonuses where you didn't use your workers, right? Retrieve your agents and you'll do a load of other shit. And then at the end of the 4th round, the player with the most influence will be the winner of Shadow Network. So what do we like about Shadow Network? So the first thing that we really like about this is the way that the game allows you to seed the board manually. We're not talking about the incentivized phase, but when you leak intelligence, you get to choose where it goes. And it might be the case that putting it on your own spot will indirectly benefit you. Obviously, you're not going to be able to take it yourself because you can't go to the same spot twice. But every time another player goes to a spot where you've got an agent, they have to pay you 1 influence, right? So if you dump some intelligence that they need on the space that you're on, it might be the case that they will gift you a victory point. If you do this multiple times during the game, that might push you over the edge and win you the game, right? So the second thing we really like about this is the Mystic Veil style plastic cards. We saw a prototype of this before it was on Kickstarter, and they went with these like rectangle tokens, one for the top, one for the bottom. We saw they were sliding around and it was a pain in the ass to set up, right? So they fixed this problem by having these transparent cards with the information that you need, and they're double-sided as well, right? So not only are the cards going to be in different positions every game, you're going to be able to choose either the A side or the B side. So this makes the replayability of this game exceptionally high, and this is what you want with these low luck Euro games, isn't it? So the third thing that we really like about Shadow Network is it comes in a very, very small box. It's a full-blown board game that they've managed to cram into a tiny box, and everybody these days complains about shelf space, yeah, because everybody's got a board gaming addiction these days, haven't they? So the fact that they've shrunk the box down to half the size of a normal box basically is very, very welcome indeed. What don't we like about Shadow Network? So the first thing that we don't like about this game is that at higher player counts, there is a huge amount of downtime with this game, yeah? This reminds us of a port turn in Merchants and Marauders. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. So not only have you got to do the espionage action, you've got to do that, it's mandatory, but in order for the game to flow as it should, you're going to have to take the black market action multiple times, right? And if you add to that, you've got the analysis action. That's like 3 actions in one. I'm sure I saw a tutorial that said the analysis actions are off turn actions where you do it on somebody else's turn, but I couldn't see any of that in the actual rule book, and we did try it and it turned out that people were just talking over the top of each other. A few people made mistakes, realised it later, tried to unpick it, and the game fell apart. So if you're playing this with 4 or 5 players, just be prepared that there is going to be long periods of the game where you're going to be sat there doing nothing, and the person next to you will be poring over the different ramifications and different actions that they can take on their turn, right? And it's kind of mind-numbing. So the second thing we don't like about this game is that the intelligence tokens are extremely fiddly, and this becomes a massive problem when 90% of the game is taking some resources from the bank, doing something on your board, and then handing them back multiple times, right? And it's very difficult to pick these little tiny tokens up, hand them to the geezer who's the merchant banker, then they hand you back more tokens that you are going to do something with in the analysis phase, right? So it seemed like a large portion of this game was taken up from just throwing different tokens at each other and not actually playing the game itself. So the third thing that we didn't like about Shadow Network is that there's not really that much of a game in here. It's resource management at the end of the day. You're going to be putting your workers on the board to get resources, and you'll be turning those resources into other resources and then paying them into the bank to get the big cheese at the end, right? And doing this relies heavily on the black market action, and this is randomly distributed throughout the game, right? It's going to go to each city at least once, yeah, but it might end up that it goes to the city that you don't want to go to, right? And there's not really much that you can do about that. It felt like we were doing work experience as an accountant, and that can be a little bit of a drag sometimes, you know? So to summarise, is Shadow Network worth your time and bother today and in the future? So we're going to say maybe, maybe not. All depends what sort of games you like. Shadow Network is fine. It has some interesting choices, right? And some novel ideas like the plastic cards, right? But overall, it felt like a drawn-out bean counting exercise. Those of you who masturbate over Microsoft Excel files will absolutely love this game. But ultimately, it left us feeling a little bit cold and a little bit exhausted. A bit like I felt at the end of the Cold War, you know? So there you go. That is Shadow Network. Remember, if you're new here, please consider subscribing to this channel. Hit the like button, all that YouTube bullshit. See you next time.